Welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
Not you. We go through this every single time.
No, not every time.
Like every third time. It's the Afternoon Snack Podcast, episode number 75. And we're calling this one...
I don't think we need to name it right now.
Fine. We'll name it later. I've got a few ideas.
Okay. Let's see how it materializes and then name it.
It's like when you get a pet and you're like, well, we can't name the pet right away. We don't even know the pet.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Ivy didn't have a name for like a week.
Yeah, it's because you wanted to call her like Olivia.
Well, that was the name. That is her God-given
It
name.
was no, it wasn't. I mean, I guess God didn't give it to her.
Okay.
Her breeder did.
Yeah. I thought it was like a cute little name, Olivia.
It was not bad.
Her sister was named Ophelia.
Right.
Which I thought was cute. And then her brothers were Ocean and Onyx.
That's cute.
Yep. All O's. That's the theme.
Sometimes I call her Lillian. And sometimes I call her Llewellyn.
Yeah, her name has really evolved from like your...
She has many, many, many different names. Like Lady Lou is short for Llewellyn.
Okay.
So I like to call her Lady Lou. So then I also like to call her by her full name, which is Llewellyn.
But also
like Lily, like Lil Baby Boo is Lily, which is also Lillian in full. So I like to call her Lillian sometimes when she's in trouble.
But wasn't she at one point also Snooky?
She was Snookers. Snooks.
Okay.
I mean, the names really, they're never ending. But Llewellyn is the newest.
Yeah.
She doesn't like that one as much.
No, it's too pretentious.
Yeah.
For her. I call her Biggie. I don't know why. She's like a big little cat. Anyways, it's been a week since we've done one of these.
A lot has happened.
A lot has happened, which is why actually I think it's been over a week, but
the last two podcasts were pretty big.
They were.
We got a lot of feedback on those.
Yeah.
Positive, which is good.
Yeah. So really we were waiting around for something big enough to happen to come on here and discuss. And it has. And
we've been discovered.
We're going viral. Like actually going viral.
Like I don't know what the actual definition of going viral is, but I feel like this is what it is.
Well, yeah, so I know we talked about this a couple of episodes ago, just about how our main like lead generation and like platform is Instagram, and we have switched over to Reels just because that's the format that's getting rewarded, which has been an experience to say the least.
And rewarded means like it shows up on most people's feeds. It gets into the discovery page. Like I'm not exactly sure how it works, but basically you just get more attention on Instagram when you post a certain way or like, yeah.
Yeah, it shows up in like the explore page.
Yeah.
For you. Like it's basically like, I mean, I know there's more work than this, but that scene from Toy Story with all of the alien toys and the machine, and then they're like, the claw. The claw.
Claw's our master. Claw chooses who will go and who will stay.
This is ludicrous. Climb into this.
The claw, it moves. I have been chosen. Farewell, my friends. I go on to a better place.
Gotcha. And it picks the one alien, and it takes it away. That's kind of how I feel like the Instagram algorithm works.
Have you ever, on a somewhat related topic, have you ever actually won a prize with one of those games?
I have, but not, I think maybe 2. Yeah.
I didn't think anyone ever did.
Well, they put them in there in a specific way that makes them basically like impossible to grab.
I always thought it was impossible because it's like you almost have it and you get so excited and then it pulls up before it closes.
Yeah, I think the way that I got it, I actually wanted the claw things hooked through like a loop tag.
Oh,
and so
that makes sense.
Was a total fluke.
Yeah.
But also like you're trying to grab something with like 3 like it's like the physics of that
yeah
like don't really make sense. But
anyway, back to Instagram.
Yeah, so we have been doing reels.
I mean, Instagram's kind of similar. Like we put out a reel almost every single day, or a post every single day. And we've been doing that for, over 3 years now. I mean, we didn't start posting daily until maybe a couple years ago or a year and a half ago, but we put out a lot of posts, and like there hasn't been one that's been like chosen.
Yeah.
Like some get more popular than others. You slowly accumulate followers, but like something happened.
Yeah, I think the closest we ever came to that was the Jillian Michaels post from a couple years ago. But I think that videos are so much more engaging, and obviously like that's kind of what people are on Instagram doing now. And so there was one from, I don't know, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago that we did, and it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like overnight, boom, this thing took off. It was like actually like a week later. It was like, why are we getting so many followers? And then you go back and you kind of see like there's a lot of engagement on this post from like, you know, a couple days prior, a week prior, and it really took off. And I think this morning I'll actually check it so I get the numbers right.
What's crazy is that post, which is the one that basically it's like things that don't matter. And it was Thursday night, and we were like, what should we do for a post tomorrow? And Meredith was like, well, let's just do something like super basic, like maybe like a quick one that's like a few things that don't matter.
A filler post.
Yeah. And it was like, and you know, like Friday's not really a super engaging day on social media. So it's like, we don't want to put out like one of our best ideas. Like, let's just put something quick together. And she was like, I'll just make a post, so we won't do a video. And I was like, I don't know, let's just do a video. It'll be really easy. And like, you can kind of do some different scenes. And so we put the script together, and I videoed it. And then overnight I was like, well, let's just like bookmark it, like bookend them, the video. So it's like an intro in it. So it was like morning, like awful lighting. I'm sitting there. I video like, hey, here's a few things that like don't matter. And that post that just was kind of thrown together like not willy-nilly. None of our posts are willy-nilly, but like as just a filler post ended up being extremely popular.
Yeah. So as of this morning, right now, there are, it's almost 210 million, or no, sorry, 2,100,000 views on it. So 2.1 million views. Yeah. So that's, and then I think what happened, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a like social media or internet expert, but it's what was kind of unusual is that it went that viral and then we got that many followers, because it's actually kind of hard to get followers these days. Even if you have something that takes off like that, a lot of people will engage with it and they'll like it, but they won't necessarily follow your page. I mean, I do that all the time.
Well,
right?
it definitely did happen. I mean, when there's that many likes, but yeah, it's still translated into a fair number of followers.
Yeah, because I think when people go over to our page, it's like, it's not just that post. There's a whole bunch of other posts. In fact, there's like 2 years worth of pretty good information. Nutrition and fitness is a really popular space online. And so it just translated into, yeah, I think as of today, we're up over 100,000 followers from like a week ago, which is insane. We haven't slept.
No. I just like, it was, I mean, our business is more than Instagram, but like our marketing platform is Instagram, which translates to our email list. It's like everything starts from Instagram. So to get this, like, it's like we just found a pot of gold. Like, we just have so many more people and like so many messages from people. And like, I think what's great about Instagram is you can help people who aren't even like paying you, who you don't even know. We got a lot of messages that are like, wow, I'm so glad I found this page. Like, it's already been so helpful.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to us as well. So it's like, I think for me, I always knew that our page was really good. And now it's like, finally.
Yeah, right?
Not to toot my own horn or our own horn here, but it's like,
we do put a like
very, very like validating and just like,
yeah, there's been
like,
a lot of work that has gone into it. And it feels good to be noticed.
Yeah.
But it's it reminds me. So I know I think we've talked about this before, but I'll talk about it again. These two research studies, these papers that were published in Nature, and what it looked at was they evaluated, or they were trying to understand how hot streaks happen. So essentially, like from an outsider's perspective, when they look at an athlete, or I guess specifically the studies were done on artists and business people. But from the outside looking in, you might think like, oh, that person just got really lucky. They got discovered. They got found. And what they found when they were evaluating all these artists and people was that really there's no such thing as getting lucky in that way. People don't really get discovered like just out of the blue. And what the pattern tends to be is like a period of sort of dabbling and exploration, followed by like a period of exploitation, I think is the language. So essentially, and I don't think this applies only to like artists or like quote unquote like elite individuals. I think it applies to anyone who kind of has success in their own way. But as far as what the papers were looking at, they were looking at these types of people. But so you have artists, for example, who experiment and who create with a lot of different mediums and styles. And so they're kind of exploring, they're figuring out what they're good at. And then it's when they sort of like narrow in on one specific medium or type of painting, that's when they get discovered. And the same thing happens with musicians. When you, I guess, are looking at athletes, like the number one predictor of an athlete being a professional athlete as an adult is that they played many, many sports when they were kids. So it kind of, it applies in that way to athletes as well. There's a lot of experience and dabbling and experimenting before they figure out, yeah, I want to go play baseball, or I want to ski, or I want to play football. Like most really, really good high level athletes have played a number of sports before they've become professional. And I feel like, and I'm not saying like this isn't the end for us. It's not like, oh, we've made it and we're done now, because we're definitely not. But I do feel like there has basically been a couple of years of us just kind of like toiling away, experimenting with designs and with formats and delivery methods and voice. And it's kind of like recently we just sort of like narrowed in on this one way of doing things, partially because we had to. And it's just like, here you go. Discovered. That's cool. But I think without all that groundwork, we would never have developed the voice or like ability to do what we're doing. And also, we wouldn't have all this content that people can go basically land on our page and they go, holy shit. And then they start scrolling back and it's like immediate follow. And I've been on pages like that.
Yeah.
Like I've had pages show up in my like for you or suggested, and I click on them and I'm like, holy crap, where has this page been my whole life? Follow. And it's like that. And that's how it works, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a good week. It's been a really, really cool week to see this all like kind of like paying off. Not that it wasn't before. I mean, we had a decent following, and it will be very interesting to see how, so we had like 20,000 at the beginning of the month. And those 20,000 were very like, I'm going to use the word curated, but they were very bought in. We have been messaged, like it was very slow growth. So everyone who was there,
they know what we're about.
They knew what we were about. They were there because they actually, like all the people who didn't follow us or didn't believe us had left. And you know, there were a couple turning points in our business, and I think we've maybe spoken about these before in the past, but we kind of had to really fight tooth and nail on Instagram to kind of establish ourselves in the space. With, you know, nutrition can be very polarizing, I guess to say. And so when you take a stance on something, like for example, carbs don't make you fat, like even though like all of our claims are based in research and science and well supported, there are still people out there who will disagree with you. And so we did a lot of like internet arguing.
You're talking about
early on, like we were debating people, like, and you know, we just had to keep proving ourselves and use science and like, and prove that we were a reputable source. And I think that really helped kind of gain the support from our following. Like we say something and people listen. It's going to be really interesting to see how this like huge new group of people, how that ends up working out. I think like the fact that we do have so many followers from the last month says like, okay, people are bought in. I don't think a lot of people who, and we'll get into this, don't believe us or don't agree with us are going to follow us. But I think the other turning point in our business was when we decided to start posting almost every day. And I think we were posting every few days. And this was probably a couple of years ago. We finally were like, we got to post every day. And then we found we were struggling with our work-life balance. So we're like, okay, weekends are going to be non-posting days. We're going to try to work a little bit less on the weekends and really focus on those 5 days when Instagram is a little bit more active anyways, because people are at work. I think that was a big turning point. And then you just start like ideas start going, and then our business started growing and we had more clients, which gave us more to work with in terms of creating information. Like a lot of our information is based on, you know, conversations that we're having with clients on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And that's really, really valuable. So I think those were big turning points.
And it's like, I really like the parallel of that and how it sort of fits nicely into what we preach. I think there's a lot of value in practicing what you preach. And obviously like we do that from a nutrition standpoint, but even in other, like there's nothing in life is new. Like no concepts are new. Everything's just kind of repurposed from one area to the other. And this is not really any different. So when we tell people, hey, the key to having what you want is consistently like showing up every day and doing this thing, understanding and being okay with the fact that some days are just, they're going to be better than others. Like some days it's going to hit, it's going to be like, yes, this is great. And then other days it's going to be a bit more of a struggle. And to see that the way that plays out in different areas. So for us in marketing and business development and in growth, it's the exact same thing. So when we are telling clients like, hey, all you got to do is show up. Like that's the prerequisite for having what you want. Like you don't have to show up and be perfect. You just have to show up. And we have basically been doing that exact same thing in a different space in marketing and in social media. And even though like we have kind of been toiling away with like very slow growth and we're okay with that. Yeah, it's like, it's nice to see, you know, results, and it's encouraging to keep going.
Yeah, for sure.
But I love that. I love that parallel because I think it's really important. And I think a lot of, and that's not to say like you can't run a successful business and not be on social media, but I think if you're relying on it for lead generation and like fundamentally, it allows us to reach and actually like have an impact on a large audience of people. And that's the most important thing. I think early on it was about establishing our name and our brand and just getting out there. And that's kind of why we had to take such an aggressive stance at the beginning. But yeah, after we spent that first year kind of having internet arguments and got a lot of buy-in from our followers, we were able to change our tone and our voice and our messaging and just start building a lot of like trust and having impact. And like the exciting thing about this is not that it's going to directly translate into like business growth or income, but that like we get to impact so many more people potentially in a positive way. And that's like so exciting. Mm-hmm. But as far as the people who are not stoked to see us,
I had to put my helmet on again.
Yeah. So the internet, as we know, pretty gnarly place. And what we found out is while it might sound very exciting to go viral, and it definitely was, there are some really, really nasty and unkind people who come out. And basically, I have been on a comment deleting spree since.
I had to stop looking because the the video is of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I look the way that I look. I don't actually like, I get my hair cut and that's kind of it. I don't wear makeup. I just like, I'm too busy for that. Like I just don't. And so when we do these videos, I'm not like done up. Like I said, like one of them was like straight in the morning. Like it's just, and not that I wish I had done anything different with the way that I look, because I look the way that I look, but like I don't like, it's not I don't it's really just confusing as to why somebody and would come onto the page, come onto the video, they see it, it's like, and there's so many things. There's like, number one, like, why does it matter if I'm a girl or a boy?
Mm-hmm.
But also, I'm wearing a sports bra in one of the videos.
And like earrings.
Like, and then it's like, oh, well, I think for a while there, I think because I'm not necessarily competing in CrossFit or doing CrossFit as much at least at a public gym. I'm in my basement. I don't have that many photos of myself like competing anymore. I don't really post photos of myself competing anymore. I don't have very many photos of myself not wearing a shirt. Back when I used to post shirtless photos, like from workouts or whatever, or bathing suit photos even, I would get a lot of comments on like, I look like a man, I'm taking PEDs, like, how, that's gross, like all of these things that I'm sure like, a lot of CrossFit athletes or bodybuilders get, especially women. So I think I kind of like lost touch with what that felt like. And this video, part of it was I was on the bike talking about intermittent fasting. So I was like doing a workout and I was like, okay, we'll just do the bike. And I didn't have my shirt on and I look like I'm very fit and muscular. And I guess in the community that I'm in, everyone's either seen that or is aware of it and it's fine. Like the CrossFit community or my following knows about me, knows my fitness routine, like whatever. When you get into like the real world, which is where this Instagram post ended up, it's like they've never seen a girl who's muscular before. And maybe they have and they just need to be rude. But like the number of comments about taking like testosterone or PEDs or looking like a man, like even things like this dude knows what he's talking about. Like, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, also, why do we need to gender people?
Yeah.
What if I'm non-binary? Like, why do you, this random person out living in, I don't know, probably Texas.
Let's go Iowa.
Why do you have to know if I'm a girl or a boy? Also, why? Like, to me, it makes no sense. Like,
does that change?
Just be like, I wonder if that's a girl or a boy, and then move on. Why do you have to comment? Why do you have to make comments like, ew, gross, not for me?
Yeah.
Or like,
everybody making comments knows they're just trying to be a dick.
I know, that's the thing is like, I'm wearing a sports bra. Like, I don't know, do men wear sports bras? And like, I don't know how the trans community like or a trans person, I should say, works. But I think that if you're transitioning from, and I did get called this, and I'm not even taking offense to that because like, I don't think transitioning it should be like offensive. I don't like, I don't think being called a girl when you're a boy is offensive. It's just, it is. And some people haven't like been exposed to the fact that we're trying to move towards a place where it doesn't matter as much. But like, I don't think a woman transitioning to male would have a sports bra on. Wouldn't they just wear a t-shirt? Like, a sports bra to me indicates like I have breasts
that I'm concerned with covering up.
I don't know.
Like
that would be my take. I should say, like, if I decided I wanted to be a male, I probably wouldn't wear a sports bra, just a sports bra. 'Cause it's like, oh, that's what females wear because they have breasts and they're covering them up.
If like gender identity, I would like to, I'd probably be wearing a t-shirt. But even if you want to be wearing, it doesn't matter.
But
wear what
it
you
doesn't
wear.
matter. It's just like these more like, yeah, it does hurt my feelings a little bit to be called, and we'll get into this, like, to be told like, oh, you're on testosterone or gross or whatever. Like, I personally like the way that I look. I like my body. I don't do things to make my body look a certain way. I do things because I love being fit and active and eating healthy and treating my body right. And it just so happens that I have genetics that I have and I look a certain way. I also like that I have short hair. I think it suits me. And I also don't wear makeup. I don't have a problem with that. But at the same time, like, it is hard to take like comment after comment after comment of like, ew, gross, or like, is that a boy or a girl? And not so much because I'm like bothered by the fact that people are mistaking me for a boy, but it's like, I am so confused as to why people feel the need to be dicks. Just move on.
Because people are...
This isn't about defending Chase Ingram or like being on side with Savon like in our last podcast. This is just somebody being miserable behind their computer screen, typing a note and moving on with their day. But there's so many of them.
It's because they hate their lives so much. Like, the way that you have to realize, the way that they spend their time is by scrolling through Instagram and finding things and people to make comments on.
It's like, there were a lot of comments on me being like, well, we know who the man in the relationship is, or like, wow, definitely a lesbian. Like, don't need to guess what, who she has sex with. Like, definitely a carpet muncher, which I'm like, do we still use that term?
Yeah, those people do.
I'm like, what does it matter if I'm gay? This video has nothing to do with my sexuality. People are so sad.
Yeah.
Some people are effing sad. It's so pathetic, and it's confusing living in a world with them. It's difficult.
Yeah.
And I want to say, like, I walk around and I don't get comments like that in the real world. I get called a boy if I'm wearing a mask and a hat sometimes, and it's like, whatever, moving on with my life, doesn't matter. But I have had friends who are like, who have short hair and are female, being told, like, being called out, like, in a rude way, like I was on social media this week.
Yeah.
In real life. So, like, Meredith will say, well, those, think about it. You think those people are going to call you out in real life? I'm like, probably some of them.
Yeah, for sure. Which
also is sad. But anyway, and the worst part is like, again, you look and you see that if who that person is, and to block them, because of course we're trying to block those people, because even though I don't think it matters, because they're just there for a second to make a rude comment and move on. But you see, and it's like, they're not even following you. They're just there to be a dick.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a single comment that I deleted or a person that I blocked was like, when I clicked on their profile, it said follow back. Like, they're not following.
No.
But you still want to block them, because I think a lot of people who do that, they come back to check.
Makes you feel better.
Reaction. But
I also, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think what's the sad part is it just makes you, and you had a few moments over the past week. It does, like, it makes you stop and think, and you're about something that you're not particularly conscious of, anyways. And I think we work so hard, and I don't mean you and me, I mean we as like human beings work so hard to love our bodies for what they can do, and to not have that be the thing that we focus on. I know I do. And it sucks when you have somebody who, there was one comment about, well, you both have very, very masculine physiques, like large shoulders, small hips, like you must be taking male replacement hormones. And it's like, do you have any idea how genetics work? But it also,
I was thinking about this in the shower yesterday. I have been training weights since I was 15.
Yeah.
I did power cleans and stuff when I was 15 years old for ski racing.
And you were skiing long before that.
Like, I basically have had a six pack since I was like 10.
Yeah.
Also partially just because like of my genetics.
Yeah.
Like, and then on top of that, training, and then the last 10 years, basically training twice a day, every day.
Yeah.
CrossFit. Like,
what do you think a person's going to look like? Anyways.
But they don't know this.
They have no idea.
I didn't even think twice about having my shirt off in that video. I was just like, is this my body? I don't even really think about it anymore. I think about it when I go in public. I'm like, if I'm wearing a bathing suit on the beach, I'm like, I know people are looking at my body. Like, when we used to go to Maui, I'm like, quite aware of this fact. And partially because when I see a woman or a man who's very fit looking, I see that and it's noticeable. And so like you notice the attention. And because it is a little bit, and I'm using extreme, but not in a negative way. Some people, it's not for them. And so it's like, or they've never seen it and they'll make comments or something. And so when I'm in those places, or like sometimes when I go out, I don't wear a sleeveless shirt for that reason.
Yeah.
Like, or maybe I'm not going to go walk across the pool because I am self-conscious of just being out and everyone's like looking at my body. I have some
like comments like, whoa, how much do you bench? Or like, you know, kind of like dudes love to flex at you when you walk by.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you stop?
Like we went to Vegas a few years ago.
Vegas was bad for this.
It was like literally we couldn't leave our hotel room without getting like 5 comments. And it was the women comment. And I'm going to say there were women on this post who were making rude comments as well, but women tend to be a little bit more like kind about it. They're like, wow, great body or something. You guys must work really hard.
Yeah.
Whereas men, it's like a condescending or something. I don't know. I know I'm like stereotyping here, but that's been our experience. Like Vegas was kind of the first time when we kind of like left the CrossFit community together. And I don't know if it's because there were 2 of us or what, but it was like you couldn't walk down the street without a comment.
Like we were a sideshow.
Yeah.
Was so I haven't thought about that in a long time, but wow. And like it like a lot of times coming from people who you look at and you're like, really? Like you are going to make that comment
like,
to me?
How about don't touch my arm? Wow, nice arms. Wow, what do you want? Should I go up to you and be like, wow, your arms are really jiggly?
Yeah, don't say anything about people's bodies. And it wasn't like nice arms, you must work so hard. That's not the implication.
Yeah. Ugh. That was bad. But anyways, it's kind of similar experience online this week for me.
Yeah, but definitely mostly men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I guess we can transition. We wanted to talk a little bit about like body image.
Well, yeah, I guess before we get into body image, to kind of bridge that conversation, we got a few, and like I experienced this, and we've had comments made, and it's just kind of the perception there as like a fitness and a nutrition expert online. A lot of times, and like there was a comment this morning about like I can't remember the words. It was people with good genetics just don't know what they're talking about, something like that. But anyways, there's kind of this implication sometimes thrown around that we don't know what we're talking about, and we're just we get to take up this space because of the way we look. And I think that there are a lot of people in the fitness, bodybuilding, personal trainer space online, and that's exactly what they do. Like they have amazing bodies, good physiques, and they dish out really terrible nutrition and fitness advice, or they sell programs, and they're very predatory. And I think that those people are definitely out there. But I think for us, it's kind of this catch-22, being like an expert and actually knowing what we're talking about, but also like being pretty fit looking. I think to a lot of people, being fit looking is like an anti-credential. It detracts from people's willingness to believe what you have to say or believe that you're actually an expert.
I don't think that's the majority, but it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not saying that it is a majority, but it's...
Or even being good at CrossFit is an anti-credential for what we're doing.
Yeah, because a lot of people will write it off like, oh, either you have good genetics or you're just gifted, so you don't know what it's like to actually have to work for this stuff.
Yeah, or you have a following because you're CrossFit Games athletes.
People used to do that with Tactic a lot.
Yep.
Like, oh, the only reason their company is big or they have a lot of following is because they're CrossFit Games athletes. Well, like, what about now? Do we get to stop throwing that around?
That's not the case. I mean, look at our and one reason why we kept our personal brands separate from Tactic was for that. We wanted Tactic to be its own like standing. I mean, yes, we are the faces of Tactic, but it's completely different. Like, there's nothing on Tactic really about us.
Yeah.
And yeah, but that was always a big one. It was like, oh yeah, they're CrossFit Games athletes. I think we're sponsoring an event this summer as a company, and the guy wanted to promote promote the partnership and say, you know, Tactic Nutrition owned by CrossFit Games athletes, Alex Parker and Meredith Root. And instantly I was like, no.
Yeah, I made him change that.
At that point, like, we aren't associating our CrossFit Games experiences or credentials with this company, and we never have.
Yeah, like you don't get to use that.
And it is an anti-credential because it's like, oh.
The only reason they're here, they have this company is because they...
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's never been the case. We definitely don't want that like tied to it anymore.
You can't win in this space though. Like we can sit here and say, oh, us being fit is an anti-credential. Us looking a certain way causes people to say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They just look a certain way. But on the flip side, I've heard nutrition coaches and personal trainers say the opposite. It's like, oh, I am super self-conscious about the fact that I don't look like a bodybuilder, or I don't have abs, or I'm not super lean. Who am I to say that, you know, you need to change your nutrition when, like, I look the way that I look? I just look like a normal person, or I have a few pounds to lose. I hear that all the time. I hear that from clients who are in the industry. I've heard that from other nutrition coaches. And so I mean,
Catch-22.
You cannot win. Yeah. It's hard. And I think all you can do is really just keep putting out information and try to gain people's trust with, and see you as an authority figure in the space by what you have to say. I think that's the best. And using like science-based stuff, things that people can't really poke holes in. They can try, they can call you out, but it's like, okay, well, what do you have that's supporting your argument here?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we did it. But it's funny because maybe I haven't given enough thought about this, but I always like to use the dentist analogy, and no one talks about the dentist's teeth. Oh, you don't have bad teeth, so you don't know what you're talking about. You've never had to go from having bad teeth to good teeth.
Yeah.
What? But I'm an educated dentist. I know how to fix somebody with bad teeth. I know what you need to do. Also, the fact that I have really good teeth doesn't mean that I can't like relate to what you're going through or help you. I don't know.
I think it's
also like, just because you don't have the most beautiful teeth and you just have normal looking teeth doesn't mean that you can't be a dentist. It's just like, no one talks about dentist teeth. Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't think that they do. Yeah. I don't pick my dentist based on their teeth.
Yeah.
I pick my dentist based on who has had a good experience with that dentist and their like clients.
Yeah.
Although I haven't had to pick a dentist. I've been going to the same dentist since I was a kid.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I don't even know what his teeth look like. I can't even remember because it's not important.
And he's wearing a mask.
That too.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe that's why they wear a mask though.
I do think that it's tricky. Like I said, there's so many people out there. And I do believe when you're talking about like weight loss specifically, I understand the knee-jerk reaction to say, well, you don't know what you're talking about because you never had to go through it. And there was something, I think, on TikTok a couple weeks ago where, you know, someone basically said, like, fit people shouldn't coach people for weight loss because they don't get it. And I think there are a lot of people who probably don't, and they don't bother to learn. But I think as, you know, as someone who's in this space as a coach, and this should be every coach who's in this space who's helping people with their health, specifically with regards to weight, is I think you need to spend so much time at like researching and understanding how complicated that is, like what contributes to it, why it's so difficult to address, like why you can't just say, well, just do this and expect people to get results. It's not that easy. Maybe for some people it is that easy, but for a lot of people it's way deeper than like, yeah, just eat less, move around a little more. Like that's not it. But I do think that you have a lot of trainers and people online who it's kind of like that swimmer's body fallacy. Like you don't get a swimmer's body by swimming. Swimmers swim because they have that body. It's like the same thing in, I think, the online PT space or online trainer space. Like people, these guys and girls who are kind of intolerable, really. They can eat chicken and broccoli every day, and yeah, they're super ripped, think that that's some sort of credential. Like that gives them the right to give advice when it doesn't. But that doesn't mean that someone who looks like them can't give advice. It just means that like you should take the time to try to figure out more about that person and where they are coming from, if they understand the nuance and the complexity around health and weight, and then make assessments of how much they know.
Yeah. I mean, I've struggled with people. I've known and talked to some people who are, their only credential is the fact that they themselves have lost weight. And I've talked to them and I'm like, holy moly, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like every case is different. So when your only knowledge base is your experience, that is not a good thing.
No.
That is really, so, I mean, I think if you're working with the general population, even if you're working only with weight loss people, the different, like, yes, all the same basics apply, but everyone is a little bit different. And so if you're not actually educated and you haven't worked with a different group of like a bunch of different people, and you don't have a lot of like reading and knowledge courses and certifications under your belt, you can start to do some people a little bit of a disservice. So it's like, I don't know, like you said, a catch-22.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that stops someone who lost 80 pounds on the ketogenic diet to go, you know what? I'm a health coach now.
Yeah. And I've seen that.
Yeah. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It means that I guess this is kind of the sad part about the internet is people do take it at face value and they don't bother to research or understand. They just say, oh, this person got what I want, I'm going to listen to them.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not necessarily a very good idea. I mean, the snake diet still exists, so.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I guess onto the body image front. We like to bridge to that. A lot of people do kind of think that we've never struggled, or people like us don't struggle with body image. And I think this week specifically for you probably brought a lot of that back up. But we've been talking this whole week about like the way that we used to talk to ourselves as kids, as teenagers. Like I know, like you said this and it kind of struck me. And I think like with your girlfriends or with your friends, how often did you get the question like, oh, if you could change one thing about your body, what would it be? And then you're like, oh, I would definitely like, this lower belly pooch. I would probably just get rid of that. Or like, I wish my like legs were a little more toned.
Remember when the thigh gap was a big thing?
Yes. Like that was some sort of psychotic beauty standard.
Yeah.
But I think we're just like conditioned we grow up doing it.
Well, yeah. And all we see, I mean, more so now, like there's different body types on TV and stuff, not quite as many as to actually represent what you see in the real world, but there's definitely constant messaging about what the ideal body is. We recently watched a documentary on Abercrombie and Fitch.
Oh, that was so good.
And that was a big one. I think if you're our age, so probably you'd be in high school when Abercrombie and Fitch got really big.
Yeah, I would say like 30s, like early 30s, late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah. So when we were in high school, Abercrombie was really big. I don't remember all of this happening because we didn't really have Abercrombie in Canada. Like it wasn't a big thing. And so you'd have to go to the US and get it. And I remember like we used to have friends who would play golf in the US and they would bring us back t-shirts. Like it was a thing. But a lot of the marketing was very much like, we want basically like surfer dudes, these really tall, skinny blonde girls. Like they were very much focused on what their models looked like, and that was their image. And I think even just that contributes to like, what do you want to look like?
Well, the whole, and like their marketing, like, I mean, you used to walk by an Abercrombie store and all you could see, you'd look in and you would just see like a half naked dude.
Yeah.
And that was their brand image, and that they were pushing that on kids, on high school kids. And I remember we had a lot of friends, and like my sister worked at Abercrombie and Fitch, and it was like, if you got selected to work at Abercrombie, you had like made it.
Yeah.
Because they only, and like they later they had several lawsuits over this, but they discriminated. They would only hire like attractive people.
And white people.
Yeah. But I think that that's just like, that's one example.
One of many. Every single day, even to still today, I maybe just don't see it as much, and partially because I'm not immune to it, but I have a little bit more of a critical eye. But even I still look at magazines in the lineups in grocery stores, and I'm like, seriously?
Yeah, you mean with the headlines and stuff?
Headlines, or just like, even just like, I don't know, like Cosmopolitan, like it's always that same person, you know?
Like nondescript brunette.
Yeah, or like even like the like famous like actors they always kind of look a certain way, you know? And that's, I think, not always, but I think the majority of it. And so we're fighting a losing battle here. I don't necessarily think it's losing, but it's a very difficult battle.
Yeah, but I think to bring it back on topic, I think that everybody has body image issues.
Yeah.
Almost.
That's my theory.
And what the crazy thing is, like, I would say like my work against mine is not particularly active. Like, I don't have to fight it a lot. I'm not having to give myself like positive affirmations every single day, although those do work and you should do them. But I would say like mine are just below the surface, because all it takes is one comment to bring them right back up to like front of mind.
Like I remember I posted a photo of you a while back. It was a photo of us. And I didn't even think twice about it. And you became like really like emotional that day. And I was like, what's wrong? And finally I like pulled it out of you, and you're like, that picture that you posted, like it really, I don't like that photo. I wish you would have asked, but I'm also like embarrassed to say, don't post that photo, because like I want to be better than that, but also like it really impacts me when I see myself in that way, and I don't want that being put out on social media. And like also, you know, the way that you look in that photo is really good. Like I don't know, I can't remember the exact details.
Yeah.
But I think there is always going to be a little bit of a struggle. I think more like less now without being in the CrossFit space as much.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think when we transitioned away from CrossFit, at least definitely on social media, I don't know what it is. It's just there's so much focus on the way that you look. Like as a female in that sport, I'm sure that I don't want to say like, you know, it only happens to the women, because I'm sure it happens to the men to some extent too. Not only do you have to like be really effing good at CrossFit, but you have to look really good while you do it. And like the people who have gotten really big in the sport are the ones who do a good job with that. And there's just this like, yes, there's this sport, and you want to perform well, and that's the priority. But the second priority, and it's not that far behind, is like how you look. Like, are you wearing booty shorts? Like, you need to be posting with like videos and workouts with your shirt off. Like that's,
yeah.
Like, what if you don't want to, or I don't like working out with my shirt off. You
CrossFit Games athletes have really bad body image issues.
Yep.
I remember I was at the CrossFit Games in 2015, and I specifically remember this. I was in the like athlete area, like the lounge area, waiting for like one of the events to come. And I was super lean back then, like really lean, unhealthily lean. And I remember like a couple of the girls were like, I specifically remember one person was like, oh my God, I wish I had abs like you. You're so lean. You have the best abs. I just wish I had that. Like, I don't have a nice stomach. Like, we're at the CrossFit Games, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
But also, like, part of me, there were moments where when I would take my shirt off when I was that lean, and even still today, because I am a little bit leaner now too, I am self-conscious of that, of being that lean.
Yeah. And like what people will say or how they will react.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, it's the first thing that people want to comment on.
Yep. It's like, just don't comment on my body. Just don't. I remember there was a guy at my gym back in Edmonton. So this was probably around 2015 or 16. And he was like, oh, your legs are looking a lot bigger lately. And that was like, from his mind, a compliment, because I was focusing on getting stronger. That was always my biggest weakness, was strength. And he meant that in just the nicest way. And for me, like that, and I hate even just admitting this, but like that stuck with me.
Yeah.
I kind of became self-conscious of my legs looking big. It's just, and I would consider myself pretty resilient from like being secure in my body.
Yeah.
Like I've had a lot of clients say, like you don't understand it. And I'm like, I don't understand it to the degree that you are experiencing it, but I think I can relate and be empathetic to some degree at least.
Yeah.
And I've had comments saying like, well, do you struggle with anything? It's like, of course I do. I think every single person does.
Yeah.
Even men, like, and I say even men, I mean men for sure.
100%.
They're like what they're up against from like an ideal body.
I mean,
is,
like Channing Tatum exists.
I know, like Zac Efron.
Like Magic Mike was a movie. Like
Yeah.
you can't, like men have it. They're just like the difference with men is they're more stoic about it.
Like think about like the dad bod. Like that is, to me, that is a way of just making fun of yourself before somebody else says like,
yeah.
oh, you're kind of fat now.
Oh, you're getting a little soft. I know.
Like the dad bod, like why is that even a term? Why do you have to have a bod? A certain, like
Like you're a dad who has a body.
And it's also okay to be like, I think there's a double-edged sword here. It's like, as a male, even an elite male, I've heard of CrossFit athletes who are her dad saying like, oh, I have a dad bod. And it's just kind of like the cool thing to say.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why is it okay for you to say that? Like a woman wouldn't be like, I have a mom bod. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't really thought too much about that, but it's kind of an interesting.
Well, that's interesting. I think moms, they say like, oh, I have mom strength. And that's like that version, which is very positive. And I love that.
Yeah. That's different. I
you
think.
don't hear women say like, oh yeah, I'm kind of like soft and flabby now.
I have a mom bod now.
Yeah. I don't say that. You're awesome. You are a mom, which is
yeah,
already
there's
awesome.
some different like standards in terms of what's acceptable, I think, in describing.
Yeah, it's semantics.
Yeah. But
I think it brings up a good, like your story about the leg comment. I think there's it brings up a good point about how to talk about people's bodies if you must. I think that there's a place for like complimenting progress especially if someone's intentionally trying to make it. But I don't think, and I struggle with this too, because we work with people who are trying to make progress. And so it's taken me a long time to figure out what the right response is when someone sends you a progress photo and they're dramatically different. I think as a coach, you need to be really careful with what you say. And saying things like, oh, I'm really proud of you. Not a good thing to say. Commenting like, yeah, you're this and this and this looks smaller. Not a good thing to say. And I get like, I have clients, I have people who I work with, and they'll, maybe they work with a personal trainer or something. And, they will say to me, well, my personal trainer said my thighs are looking leaner, or my delts are looking more, whatever, defined. And I'm like, stop. Like, I just want to like message this personal trainer and be like, stop doing that. Stop doing that. Like, focus on surely they are doing something in the gym that's resulting in that change. So you say like, hey, your squat numbers are looking great. Like, your strength is progressing really well. Like, are you tracking this? Because you're making like really, really great gains in strength and in fitness. And I think that like, that puts the focus on the right thing, because, what happens if, and this is such a small thing, but this is how people's brains work. Like, what happens if that trainer says that and then like they just, for whatever reason, forget to say something about it for the next 3 or 4 weeks? What kind of impact is that going to have on that person who's there? They've received that type of praise before, and then all of a sudden they stop receiving it. And it doesn't mean that they've stopped making progress. It's just that the trainer is distracted with other people or just doesn't think to say anything. And it's like, whereas if you reward, if you say, hey, you're improving in your fitness and in your strength, that is something that if the person doesn't hear that for a couple of weeks, they can objectively look back at their strength numbers and their performance, and they can go, oh yeah, I mean, I am still I'm making progress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, then they can sort of self-soothe, self-regulate as far as like understanding their progress. But when we rely on feedback from other people exclusively to understand if we're making it or not, that's problematic. And it's not to say all trainers do that. I'm sure that they don't. I hope. I really never make comments on people's bodies when they send me pictures. And then I think the larger discussion is, as a population of people, friends, families, if someone in your circle and in your universe is making physical progress, like think really hard about the things that you say to that person.
Yeah. It's definitely tricky as a nutrition coach where we do ask for progress photos. I will say most people end up not, like, they will take them at the beginning. And it is helpful as a coach to see the way that someone's body composition is, because it can impact the direction you take with nutrition. And then also, like, starting out, it's good to see the physical progress because you want to make sure that like things are looking good from like even just a health standpoint.
Yeah.
And body composition and the way that somebody looks is important to them. So taking progress photos is a much better point of measurement than just the scale. So they have their place. Most of my clients over, the first few months, 6 months, I don't have very many people who are in with me for a year or more still taking progress photos. It's just not important. It's like, are you healthy? Do you feel good? Like, they just don't really do photos anymore. I don't request them. I think at the beginning they have their place. I do find it to be hard when somebody says, well, what do you think? Or they just send me their progress photo. I will usually say, what do you think?
Yeah.
And then if they say, well, what do you see? Then maybe from like a very objective, like the nutrition program, like is doing this right now. Do we want to move in a different direction? It's very much client directed.
Yeah.
I really try not to say, if someone says I've gained weight, I will say, look, the lighting is different, or something like that that's obvious. But I really try to refrain from making actual comments on how their body is changing and if it's good or bad.
Yep.
If someone says like, I'm really happy with the way that my body's changing, or people are saying that I'm looking leaner and that makes me really happy, I'll say, I'm glad that that you feel that way if that's important to you. Knowing that person isn't only obsessed with their body. It's kind of like an added benefit, a side result, where I feel the focus is still on feeling good and fueling your body appropriately.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a careful balance. And I will say that's something that I have learned over the years of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I don't think I would ever make a comment on someone's body, but I don't think I was as careful.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that. I find the shift, if like just to get someone to focus on, to take their focus off physical change and put it on, like performance goals or process goals is really, really hard at first. But it's possible, and that's sort of when you can get people to. I mean, it's always like I find it really rewarding when they sort of detach from their initial goal, like whatever that is, and then they end up just achieving it, kind of in passing, and that's sort of the beauty in detaching from the physical aspects of what a person's doing, because it's like, what I want you to do is get really like focused in and like not obsessed in like a bad way, but like let's focus on the process here, and let's focus on implementing some like habits and behaviors that are going to work in your life. And when that becomes a focus, like people just start feeling better generally, and I think they like that. And then, essentially where that initial goal may have initial, like at the beginning been an end point for them. It's not, it's checkpoint.
Like the beginning.
Yeah. It's like, instead of, when someone shifts towards process focus, instead of reaching that goal and saying, okay, I've reached that goal, I'm done, they just sort of like wave at it as they go by and carry on. They remove the ceiling on what it was like, what the potential end goal could even be. There isn't an end goal. Like the end goal is just like, this is now the way that I live my life. And the things that I achieve will be the things that I achieve as a byproduct for the way that I live my life. And they kind of, you adopt a more like curious and open mindset generally, instead of being very fixated on accomplishing this and then accomplishing that. And that's not to say that like you can't have goals and you shouldn't like chip away at them or have things that you're striving towards, but the way that you strive towards that is just very important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to go back for a second, I had some thoughts on like the comments on people's bodies. Like, I don't think it's fair to say that, you know, somebody looks a certain, because they have what you consider an ideal body, that they don't struggle.
Yeah.
You know, I know people who are super self-conscious about how skinny they are, or how lean they are, or whatever. And, you know, part of it is that they're getting comments. I mean, they're getting comments like, oh, you're so skinny, you're so lucky. There's also the flip side where somebody has maybe lost weight and they start getting comments about like, oh my goodness, you look so skinny. Or like this happened to me, to bring my personal experience back into it. When I started CrossFit, I started getting so many comments on my body, because it was like, I started getting a little bit leaner and a lot more muscular, especially in my upper body. And that was very noticeable. And that it almost adds pressure. It's like, and I've sensed this with people who've lost weight. It's like, oh, you look so good. It's like, well, did I look like crap before? I mean, I guess so. Like, now I have this immense amount of pressure on myself to continue this
Yeah. And
thing
to
maintain. And then when if something were to happen and you don't, and you revert back and you gain a few pounds, like, that is horrible for people.
Yeah, because they have the impression, and they get the impression from people in their lives, that they're a more valuable version of themselves when they're smaller.
Yeah.
When that's not true.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone who says things like that actually believes that. But that's the kind of the implication, and the impact can be quite significant, because if that happens a few times, which is not normal, it is normal for people to have multiple like dieting and weight loss attempts in their lives. But like, let's just imagine that happens a few times. Person loses weight. Oh my gosh, you look so great. And then they gain it back. Nothing is said. They lose it again. Oh my gosh, you look so great. Gain it back. Every time that happens, like, there's that embarrassment factor because of the way that other people make them feel. But eventually, the aversion to that feeling becomes so strong that it's like, I'm not going to try to do that again.
Or they do try. I mean, we have people who are like, this is my last ditch effort. And they come, and then they run into an issue where, this is actually very common. They'll say, I'm going out for drinks with my friends. I don't know what to do about it, because like, I struggle to manage intake when I'm around these people. And you want to say, well, let's talk. Like, why, can you tell them that you have goals, and, you're focusing on your health and your wellness, and like, you don't want to drink tonight. And to them, that is embarrassing, because they don't want to admit that they're on another diet, and that when they fail, it will be embarrassing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can see that. I haven't been in that situation, but I can imagine that being difficult. And it's like this fear of failure. It's like, you don't want to actually commit to this again. You failed. It's kind of what we've talked about in the past, like that feeling of like negative progress.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're impeding yourself from success because you've had so much failure in the past.
Yeah.
That you're almost just setting yourself up for failure again. It's very like negative. And it's sad. And so you have to do your best to try to, empower people and say, well, is this different? Like, why? Like, go to your values, go to your why. Are you doing this? And it can be really tricky, and it's very complicated. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface on this topic, but I think it was important to point out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I had someone say once, we were in Hawaii, and I was, again, like very lean at the time. And somebody we had met up with family friends who were there, and the dad, he wasn't a great friend. He was somebody like we used to ski race with, and the dad, or it was a soccer dad or something, and they were going to get frozen yogurt, and they were like, well, why don't you come? And I was like, okay, I'll come. And he kind of like looked me up and down and was like, I mean, he's like, you could definitely use some.
Huh.
And like, I don't know if he even knew, but like, that's now what, like 7 years later.
Yeah.
And I still am embarrassed sometimes thinking like I look really lean. You know, like people are going to comment that I'm not eating enough. Like when in fact I'm just naturally a little bit leaner right now.
Yeah, exactly. And also you eat a ton.
Yeah, it's tricky. But to clear the air, and if any of those people are listening, I don't take any PEDs, never have. In fact, I sometimes don't even remember to take my fish oil.
And creatine.
Yeah. I'm bad with that.
Not to mention your squat is just absolutely
exactly.
Right
I'm like, yeah, you don't see my performance.
Yeah, you don't see my strength numbers going down. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Just generally, I think it's such a complicated topic, and sometimes I wish, I love fitness and I love nutrition, and I love that we're in this space because I realize we can have such a major impact on people. But I'm sometimes envious of people that just work, like just run fitness pages and just do workouts, because I'm like, man, that's so much easier. Then nutrition is so hard.
Yeah.
Because that nutrition is what actually matters. And it's also, it's the one that comes with all the emotional baggage.
Yeah. At the same time though, I feel like there are more injuries when you train people.
That's true.
And I wouldn't want to be responsible for that.
That's a really good point.
I'm always like, oh, I don't know. I've programmed for given workouts to people, and it's fun to help people with both areas, like nutrition and fitness.
Yeah.
But it's difficult when you don't, especially learning, I imagine, to make sure that you're giving the person the right thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's unrelated.
Certainly.
I also like nutrition because it is complicated and you really, really get to know people because you have to.
Yeah. I know.
And that's cool.
Yeah. How do you want to wrap this one up?
I don't know. I have some gift wrap downstairs. I don't have any bows though.
I have bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap could be good.
But I don't have Scotch tape, so I'll have to use like packing tape.
What if we just put it in a bag?
Oh yeah, we do have and some tissue paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe the person we give it to will keep the bag.
And then use it again to prevent waste.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
All right. Horrible. Absolutely
Thanks
horrible.
for playing along.
Yeah, anyways, thanks for listening.
I have to say, I think a lot of these people listening right now, the couple million, they're the ones who were the initial, they're the, what do you call the founders?
Founders Club?
Yeah, of Tactic Nutrition. They were the original 20,000.
I know.
Before we got huge. We're actually not that big, and nothing's really changed. We're still the same people and the same company, and
yeah, we're getting more unusual inquiries, but
yes,
I think it's exciting. Not to talk about. I don't put all of our value on followers, but it does make me excited to just continue to like grow and build a tribe, and like long-term vision is like get our people a little more connected than they are now, because that community is so important to continuing to do health and fitness. Like it's one of the 7 major factors, and like health management, weight management, happiness is like a deep sense of community. And I think that it is possible to build that online. And that's like one of my long-term goals with Tactic is to be thoughtful in the way that we do that and build something awesome. So with that said, if you're a network developer or have any idea.
Yeah. I think the way that I would like to wrap this up and have the final word here is to say.
But I want to have the final word.
Well, I'm taking it.
Okay.
Is to say thank you. Like you people out there listening to this today, like your support and your like buy-in is incredibly like just appreciated and valued.
Yeah.
And I think like without like every client we've had, like ex-client, current client, follower, listener, like those people, they're the ones that are helping us grow and like help more people. And so that's what I want to say is just like thanks, like from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
Did you just tear up a little bit?
A little bit.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys again. We love you, and we will be back soon.
Last word.